Hey!
Hey, this is No Scurvy here, a podcast about living the best pirate life you possibly can. My name is Mitch Mickerson, also known as Ben DeGeorge.
And my name is nothing but Alex. And hey, Ben, you look good, by the way. I was complimenting your hair a moment ago.
Oh, you look great.
And I just wanted to kind of just briefly, concisely tell you a quick story about something that happened to me with my neighbor this morning.
Yeah.
And use it as a launching point for just a quick discussion on conflict reduction and conflict avoidance.
Yes.
And my neighbor was putting up some fence, around the corners of his property area the past couple days. And I just took a look today, and I realized it's like, oh, neighbor built that fence on my property. So I didn't even realize it until this morning. I'm like kind of looking over it. I'm like, oh, it looks great, but hey, that's on my property, isn't it? So he didn't intend to do this. I never thought he intended to do it, but like my fence that I built on my property line last fall is 3 feet in on two sides from my actual property line. So he just assumed I had built that on the property line, and he built fences going up to the back corners. He's my back property.
Oh, he didn't get a permit.
Like, we're back to back. He did get a permit, but it's not like I don't think the town comes out and inspects fences.
Yeah, okay.
It's just like, hey, you say this is on your property and within your property? Great, here's your permit.
Right.
He built off the corners of my fence. So I was looking at it, I'm like, well, that makes sense that he wants that there, because he's basically has all the property owners around him have fences. He doesn't have a fence, so he had the gaps between all of the corners of the surrounding properties, kind of open, and deer were coming through, and the deer here are kind of a nuisance, chewing up everything and sleeping in your yard and whatnot. So at any rate, I walked over. I walked around to the back street this morning. He was coming in from a run, all sweaty. I was like, hey, Joe, because we met like 2 years ago before I built my fence, and then haven't seen him since. He's like, oh, hey. I said, hey, did you know you built your fence on my property? And I wasn't really sure how to like open this conversation, because I didn't want to. My goal was never to give him a hard time or to ask him to take it down or anything like that. I was just like, oh, he doesn't realize. It's just something we should talk about.
Yeah.
Because there's like trees on the property line, and who's like responsible for those and all of that. So, we should just talk about it. So he was immediately like, "What?" Like kind of ready for a fight, I guess. But he's a nice guy. He just like immediately got defensive. Understandably, I probably would too.
Yeah.
But I was just like, hey man, I promise I'm not here to like ask you to take down your fence or give you a hard time about it or anything. I just kind of wanted to talk about it. And then basically we were looking at the surveys, and then I came back with my survey, and he was just like, when I came back the second time just to kind of talk about it a little bit more, he's like, just tell me, what is your problem with this? And I was like, oh, Joe, I don't want to fight with you at all. I promise I'm not here to like cause you any trouble. I just want to kind of have some neighborly communication. And ultimately, we kind of de-escalated. It never got like really got heated or anything, but kind of got to the point where he understood that I wasn't trying to cause him any trouble, but that I just thought it would be a good idea. Here's kind of the crux of it. I thought it would be a good idea for me to maybe just have one of those simple, signed agreements from a real estate attorney that an attorney draws up that just says, hey, to have him sign and acknowledge that it's on my property, and for me to acknowledge that I have no problem with it whatsoever for the time being. But if I go to sell the house in the future, that could be a point of contention for someone with the property. So we kind of got to that point where he's like, okay, I guess that makes sense. I don't have a problem with that. I'm sorry I got defensive, Alex. Obviously you don't have any bad intentions here. And we just kind of got to the heart of it. So here's like why I wanted to bring this up. Is my initial instinct was to not say anything about it, not think about it, just say, oh, that's weird, and not worry about it.
Sure.
But then I was thinking, man, that could open up the door for future problems. Like, why not just have a conversation with my neighbor, right?
Yeah.
So, like, what is your take on all of this? Like, little things, opening up communication with people, even if it's, like, small stuff and it's, like, probably not a big deal, but that could be uncomfortable? and B, like keeping conflict, like staying out of conflict, I guess, when you do that.
It's worth it, right? It's worth it because it is. I can think of that's a thing that I've been focusing on a lot over the last couple of years is really discussing those little things, bringing those up, and that's with coworkers, that's with friends, that's with neighbors in your situation. I think that is important to discuss and tug on a little bit and say, hey, this is kind of weird to bring up, but and I don't really know where to come from on this. I'm feeling weird about it. What do you think?
Yeah.
You stumble through it, and it's okay to stumble through a conversation. In fact, the best conversations are sometimes the ones that start with stumbling through on them. We don't have to be a winner going into those conversations either. We're coming out. The purpose is just to stumble through.
Yeah.
See where that goes.
Yeah, this is something that I think you've actually been a leader in this area for me. I think we have had conversations where I used to be very resistant to any sort of conflict discussion with anybody. I was always kind of a person to avoid conflict at all costs. And there's a lot of different ways in which I've kind of opened up to that as an adult. But you've been a factor in that through like work discussions and friend discussions, and you kind of pushed me a little bit on things here and there that I was uncomfortable talking about.
Thank you.
And maybe we were both uncomfortable talking about. Sure. And like you said, just kind of small stuff, just like little communication things here and there that has really like strengthened our friendship and relationship over time. So you've been a role model in that area.
Thank you. I mean, I think that's I'm sure it's something that you and Brittany do.
Big time. Yeah, for sure.
I think that's what should we call this? Is it just tugging on everything that's uncomfortable in conversation?
Yeah.
Is that what that is?
We should definitely come up with our own name for it, although I'm sure there's an actual term for it. For like in conflict mediation or just relationship building. Yeah. But we should call it pirate mediation. Or like what do pirates do when they need parlay? When they need to come having to talk about something, maybe it's uncomfortable and come to an agreement.
I like this.
Parlay.
I like it. We just created that. Okay.